I also want to give a shout out, because my timeline is flooded with a lot of stuff, and I want to give a shout out to a dude who I think is not my biggest fan. I'm not entirely familiar with his content at all, but I did see one thing from him that I thought was truly, truly a really good video. His name is Lonerbox. This guy, this Netanyahu's insanely dishonest interview with Lex Fridman. Very good video. I reached out to him and I told him, like, I really appreciate your moral clarity in this video, that you're, you know, addressing the history. No, he's not good. He's a Zionist with extra steps. I don't care, because the reality of the situation is that he is absolutely on the money, and I think he does a really good job of like parsing through the ahistorical shit. He despises you. I don't care. I don't know anything about him, bro. He's not correct, Lamau. Have you watched this video? I think a lot of you guys forget. I don't personally give a shit about what people's individual opinions are overall. I've listened to many of his takes on the conflict. I have not, but I'll tell you this much. This video is solid, and it is correct overall. There are obviously parts that are missing from it because this is like a very... It's a long and complicated history, but I think he's done a really, really, really good job of going through piece by piece and showing exactly how psychotic the Likud party is. So it's good. This is he offers a real decent yeah, no, I know. The new GDF we're gonna watch, it's really fucking good. Anyway, he's great on this video. I don't know his the full scope of his knowledge, but as far as I understand, look, he knows his shit. I will say that. Fantastic Big Joel take. This is Little Joel. This is not Big Joel, sir. Excuse me. He hates your Ukraine takes, but that's it. He hates your Ukraine takes, but that's about it. Yeah. Did he reply to your reach out? Yeah, he did. Yeah, I think he was a little shocked. But anyway, listen, guys, I don't give a shit. Okay? I don't give a shit about disagreements that I have with people unless they're like utterly and entirely. He wanted you canceled and banned for Simply for China. Yeah, I don't care. I don't care. You can fucking yell at me all day, every day. I do not care. You want to know why I don't care? Because in moments like this, if you are pro-Palestinian emancipation, if you are pro-Palestinian lives, you are good with me, okay? It means that you are doing something that is not permissible for the most part. It means you're doing something that most people would not do. And that extends to Vosh as well, who has, you know, raised money for the PCRF before. You know, I don't give a shit. The entire internet is a sea of people that are desperately and aggressively trying to justify some of the worst things that are happening on the ground to Palestinians, and anyone that actually demonstrates moral clarity in this circumstance is good and is great. I think that drama purgatory, debate purgatory in these circumstances, I think is like not productive, is unproductive. They could literally say fuck Hassan every other day. I need you to understand something. Someone could say fuck Hassan every other day. But on this issue, if they are demonstrating empathy, then I don't care. Okay? My mom says she wants to fuck Hassan every other day. Okay, that's different. That's a different moment. Yeah, I saw the Hirsch posting happen, by the way. Hirsch posting happened. If you know anything about our boy, I mean, he's been on the money in almost every single instance. So he was on the fucking money with the pipeline explosion. Who's Hirsch? Who's Hirsch, they say. What a sad day. He was not lol. I mean, he was. I would go ahead and say that his coverage on the pipeline literally caused the American State Department to openly reveal, way more information than they wanted to. I honestly disagreed with everything you said before and did not like you, but in this conflict, you helped a lot of people see the truth, and I thank you for that. Yeah. I agree with this, actually. Extreme factions on either side would do well to remember that the vast majority of Gazans have never voted for Hamas, and it seems to be a minority of them who support the attacks. There hasn't been an election since 2006. See, this part is correct, but I will take it always one step further as well, which is that not only did they not vote, but it doesn't even matter. Even if they voted, they don't deserve to be fucking blown up. Like, that's crazy. I don't know how we've forgotten about that. Like, that it's like wild to be like, yeah, well, 50%. Okay, let's say 50% voted for Hamas. Okay, so do they deserve to be fucking wiped out? Like, that's insane. It's like it's a very lib take regardless. Not saying he's doing that anyway. But it's like, it's literally being like, but but we want to do that to Democrats? No, wait, what? Who's we, motherfucker? I always say this. It's like, it's the same mentality of like, let's raise the South right now and let them die because they vote for fucking Republicans mentality. Like, it's nuts. Anyway. So let's get started. We're at $552,000 today. Let's see how much more we can raise. Okay. By any means necessary has been taken off the air. I don't know what that is. For the ground, addressing Ben Shapiro's ahistorical approach to Israel's development and more updates from the ground. Okay. Why don't you take the money and instead of donating it, give it to Gazans alone so they can start businesses? Yeah, that's what I should do. Did you hear about the Israeli official trying to push legislation to arrest any news outlet covering Gaza in a way that doesn't line up with the government? I saw that. I don't think that's like state policy, but yeah. Israeli spokesperson equates humanitarian aid with supplying the resources the enemy needs, which is, yeah, definitely. Yeah. Listen, brother, if your enemy is like little children on the ground in Gaza, then like you're my enemy, okay? It's fucking nuts. It's like, yeah, dude, I can't believe you wanna make sure that children have like band-aids and gauze and blood. Really fucked up of you. Those are my enemies is not exactly the take you want to have. There's a couple really good. Thank you for the raid, Denims. Hope you had a good stream. Israeli soldiers are storming the West Bank refugee camp. They're raiding the Al Arub refugee camp in the West Bank, injuring at least one Palestinian man with live ammunition, according to the witnesses. Yeah, it's just Israel doing Israel shit. They do this all the time. I think you would appreciate this take from a leftist Jew. Message to the Jews, especially the Jewish leftists. No one gets a theocratic ethno-state. Hashtag free Palestine.
Something real quick, because some of my fellow Jewish leftists have really been disappointing me. Because you're hanging on to this premise that Jews need their own theocratic ethno-state. No, no one gets a theocratic ethnostate. We live in a diverse, heterogeneous world where human beings have been moving across it all over the place for many, many tens of thousands of years. And I get why you think this, because we are fed this from birth and ritually reminded of it every year as part of our religion, that we have suffered so much and that we need a homeland. But it's just ahistorical to think that Jews have suffered in some unique and special way that makes them entitled to a theocratic ethnostate.
Like, I agree with the second part of that. I do disagree with the first part of it, but I think she's just saying that, like, you know, Jews have been historically oppressed in a unique way. I think anyone that tells you that that's not the case is silly, okay? Like, you know, I mean, and I know she's not saying that either, by the way. Oh, I know they're not saying that. Sorry, I didn't know that their pronouns were they, them. And they're not saying that anyway. They're saying that's not a justification for a theocratic ethno-state development, which is incredibly important. It is an incredibly important point to make because, like, a lot of people do kind of run off with that without really thinking about it, where it's like, no, it has to be, which is ironic because guess what? Even liberal Zionists living in Israel are straight up fucking upset about the theocratic ethno-state side in their domestic policy. A lot of them don't factor in that it's happening as a consequence, as a byproduct of a colonial apartheid state and its development. They don't really factor that part in, which is why you didn't really hear that perspective when the protests were happening, the massive amounts of protests that were happening when the Israeli government, the far-right Israeli government, tried to effectively neuter the Supreme Court. They were complaining about it. They were in the fucking streets, not realizing, even though many leftists at the time, myself included, openly stated, you cannot separate the apartheid state and its development from the theocratic ethno-state part that you're upset about. You can't, because those two work side by side. One justifies the other. One is a way to soften the other. One is another way to make it seem like this is actually a moral and just cause. It always works in that direction. And without recognizing that, without coming to terms with that reality, as many have, I think. Ultimate McNasty, thank you for Dono matching up to 500. Without coming to terms with that, you're not going to be able to effectively push back.
Genocide is a dime a dozen in this world. Even looking at European history. Yeah, I mean, the Christians really put a target on the Jews' back for a good 1,700-ish years there, give or take. But as bad as Jews had it, Romani's had it worse, just about everywhere. So where's their theocratic ethnos?
Damn, okay, I never even thought about that. That's actually kind of true.
Who are we going to kick off their land at gunpoint to give Romanis a homeland? Jews, at least we got to have shtetls. I mean, sure, they were, targeted for massacres occasionally, but the Romanis weren't even allowed to sit down, let alone being held as chattel slaves in Romania.
Damn, they just activated every fascist and every right-wing liberal in Europe. A right-wing liberal in Europe just woke up out of their slumber to be like, what? I'm sorry. Did someone just mention the humanity of Romani people? I'm going to lose my mind. I'm going to go eat some pasta real quick to calm myself down. You know what I'm saying?
For 500 years. And just look around the world. Look at black people in the Americas. Look at indigenous people all over the planet. They've all been enslaved and genocided by Christo-fascist colonizers. So our suffering just isn't that special. And the only reason that the UK and the US went along, touted that line and gave us an army was because they didn't want Jews in their countries after World War II.
And even before World War II, let's be fucking real, okay? Yeah.
And they said, oh shit, we can send all these Jews to a desert where the indigenous people there have no standing army to defend themselves with and no modern military technology. And then we get an economic and military foothold in the Middle East that will always be beholden to us. Yeah, the UK and the US thought that was a pretty sweet deal after World War II. And y'all are leftists. I'm talking about
Jesus
Jewish
Christ.
leftists. Everyone gets a place to live and everyone gets equal everyone gets a place to live and everyone gets equal rights where they live. So that means no theocratic ethnostates, like anywhere, for anyone. That's just kind of how it's gotta be. And if you're carving out an exception for Jews just because you're Jewish, then you have no ideological integrity. So we need to think that one through a second time, folks.
True. All facts. Spitting. Spittle everywhere. All facts, no printer. Yeah, we're going to be talking about the possible hate crime that is being investigated as a possible hate crime in Chicago, which of course is expected. It will fall mostly on deaf ears. Maybe liberals will do like the classic cynical, like, oh, I guess we'll throw the Muslims a bone and act like we fucking care type shit. You know what I mean? Anti-Semitic or anti-Muslim attack? No, anti-Muslim attack. It's a Palestinian child. I don't know the exact details so far. The only thing I know is that a kid and their mother were stabbed in Chicago by their fucking landlord. Here, this is what the Wilco sheriff confirms: the last night's murder of a 6-year-old boy and stabbing of his 32-year-old mother in Plainfield Township is being investigated as a hate crime related to the war in the Middle East. I'm told the victims are Palestinian. This 71-year-old suspect is their landlord. The suspect, Joseph M. Kazuba, was treated and released from a local area hospital and was transported to the Will County Sheriff's Office Public Safety Complex for questioning by detectives. Joseph Kazuba did not make any statements to the detectives regarding his involvement in this heinous attack. Despite the suspect not providing a statement to detectives, personnel were able to gather enough information through interviews and evidence to formally charge Joseph Kazuba with numerous criminal offenses. He was charged with first-degree murder, attempted first-degree murder, hate crime, 2 counts, and aggravated battery with a deadly weapon. Detectives were able to determine that both victims in this brutal attack were targeted by the suspect due to them being Muslim and the ongoing Middle Eastern conflict. Yeah. Investigators say the 6-year-old boy, was stabbed 26 times. His mother was stabbed at least a dozen times, but is expected to be okay. We're hearing from the husband, father of the victims, in a press conference this afternoon. Follow ABC 7 Chicago for the latest details. Yes. That happened last night. So, it's kind of odd. Like, I was talking to my brother about this before. And look, I'm not Mr. I'm the victim ever in situations, okay? But it is kind of wild how freely people have been just saying, like, we were laughing about how, I raised, this community raised $500,000 for Palestinian kids, right? And I was telling him how, like, people have just been straight up being like, this is going to Hamas directly. You're Hasanabi. You are a supporter of Hamas. Like, so many people analyzing whether my tears were real when talking about Shireen Abu Akleh, like, and just a litany of like insane, intense comparisons to Nick Fuentes, an actual avowed open neo-Nazi, okay? And being like, Hassan is worse than Nick Fuentes. Like, the amount of shit that I have seen, in this moment, and the psychopathic things that are being thrown out there, they're mostly just laughable from my perspective, because I've heard it so many fucking times. And we were laughing about it. Like, my brother and I were laughing about it, about the whole like Hasanabi thing, right? And I was thinking, like, that's kind of insane. Like, that's pretty fucking racist, right? Like, I am I crazy? Like, I feel like that is a wild thing to just say. To be like, yeah, dude, you're pro Hamas because you're pro Palestinians and you're secretly pro Hamas and you just can't say it out loud. And like, we know it though. We know that that's the case. And it's like, then why am I even condemning? Like, how many times do I got to fucking condemn? Until, it's not even like changing your mind about anything. It's like, it's kind of wild. And, I think that in many instances in the pro 9/11 universe that in the Western world where Muslims exist, especially in America, It's just kind of a thing. Like, you just kind of laugh it off. There's not really much you can do until it gets to a point where like you're actually experiencing fucking straight up hate crimes, right? But it's insane. It's insane to I don't know. Did I say pro 9/11? I meant post 9/11. See, they got me. They got me, boys. They got me. I'm fucking. I'm leaking. You know. Anyway, ultimately, every single person, that stabbing happened on Global Jihad Day. Yeah. That stabbing happened on Global Jihad Day. Yeah. Do I condemn Hamas? I do condemn every single atrocity, whomever is the perpetrator or the victim. But what I do not condemn is the armed resistance to an apartheid system designed as a part of a slow burning but inexorable ethnic cleansing program. A lot of words used to use when you mean no. Yeah, it's just so fucking stupid. Or there was a massive earthquake from your own home country, something you experienced firsthand and lived in your family's car on the freeway in the immediate aftermath. And there were still the same people online questioning your motivations and grief. They do not deserve anything but a downvote. Yeah, I think like we've become increasingly more insane. Americans have always been very violent, like living in America. I think it's genuinely a spiritual externality of the endless justifications that we have made time and time again for all of our imperial conquests in the Middle East and throughout the entirety of American history. And yeah, it's we're just so callous. We're so arrogant. And yeah, it kind of doesn't really matter what I say about it. Ultimately, you just at a certain point you just take it. It is what it is. You just keep on moving, you know? Don't let people try to harm you. CNN's got full Zionist propaganda network. I mean, yeah, they.
The war is not just with Hamas. The war is with all the civilians that I tried to.
That's dude. That's like they cut this too quick. I'm sorry. I hate when. I mean, I don't know what he actually said, but that seems like a fucking clip chimp. Okay. I don't think that that's like a good guy or anything, but it's like very. I know a clip chimp when I see one. You know what I mean? This homie's English is so fucking broken. There's no shot. Anyway, that was 100% AI. No, I don't think that was AI, but I think it was like clipped. I was challenged by a defender of Israel's army, to present a list of Israeli war crimes since the 7th of October, quoting chapter and verse. Well, here it is. Giannis, fucking hit my line, brother. What are you doing? Hit my fucking line, dude. Come on the show, Giannis. Come on the show. I also want to talk to you about cooperatives. I've been saying this for as long as I've been telling every single person that at the top of the hour, there's a 3-minute ad break. And if you no longer want to see those ads, all you need to do is subscribe. I do not have any way of reaching out to him. I've sent an email to his like little contact box or whatever, and it hasn't worked. I don't know how to reach him beyond that. Okay, there's got to be some homies in here that can help. This one is the best CNN cut.
Does that mean Does that mean starve the Palestinian people? Continue to, because they will be so hungry and will be so desperate for water and medicine that then they will give up Hamas?
It sounds callous, but I mean, this is a war.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do the GDF video. I think that we need to contextualize what Israel has been doing with what America has been doing as well, because I think that what do you call it? The latest GDF video perfectly highlights a ongoing war policy that we would normally consider war crimes. That has become the active military campaign against civilian populations since, I mean, especially highlighted during the Korean War. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. Let's talk about it. I'll cover the Cy Hirsch. I'll cover the Cy Hirsch article as well. What is Proletaric saying now? Is Proletaric in here saying some dumb shit again? Is he saying? He's always saying some dumbass. He's a classic anarchist showing his ass all the time. Palestinians are funding the ethnic cleansing of 400,000 Kurds in Afrin, where Arabs and Turkmen now occupy Kurdish homes and lands. Hamas openly celebrated the ethnic cleansing in 2018. Brother, I really hope that at least you're getting a pay cut from the CIA. Like, you have to, right? You have to be. There's no fucking shot, right? You can't be doing this for free, right? It's kind of wild. You cannot be doing this for free. I hope you're getting some payment. You are always in here, dude. You are always in here. No, it's not Hasbara shit. No, this guy is always like, and his freedom, Kurdistan. And his freedom, spitting fire on Erdogan. Free Kurdistan. Hamas are just like the IDF. They're Islamists just like the rebels in Syria. Read Öcalan, his concept on democratic confederalism. Turkish media spreading pigs of Kurdish children being bombed by Turkey to present it as Gaza victims. Like, he's in it. He's in it only to fucking bring this back to the Kurds and whatever the line is. Ban his ass. I like it. I think it's funny. Fuck off, Islamist Turks. BG PKK. Am I lying? I like when people do this. It's funny. Who cares? You know. He's like a court jester. Like, bro. It's a ridiculous thing. It is the funniest fucking take. So funny with the ethnic cleansing of Turks. Yeah, it's funny because you're literally trying to say that like what Israel is doing to the Palestinians is okay. Because you think that like Palestinians participated in mass displacement of Kurds in northern Syria. That's a psychotic fucking take, brother. You are out of your mind. Okay? And I think that you're doing it deliberately because you always bring up Enes Kantar, for example, who is a literal Fethullah Gülen supporter and a CIA asset. Like, I'm sorry, I'm never going to fucking take you seriously when you go, oh, I'm an anarchist. And then you literally bring up CIA, like members of the CIA, people that are assets for the CIA. Okay? There is no terror cell. There is no terror. Like ISIS even does not come close to the death and destruction that the CIA has caused all around the world, which is pretty funny because you could say ISIS is also a product of America's intelligence operations. So like, you know, I would probably add their death toll to the CIA as well. Get the fuck out of here. Why can't anarchists always do that? Why can't anarchists just like not just like chill the fuck out for 3.5 seconds? Okay. Anyway, obviously not every anarchist is like this. Just some of them who the least showered ones are like that though, and never stop. They never ever stop. It's crazy. All right. We got on the docket, we got why Israel deliberately targets civilians. I think before that, we'll do the double down news clip that came out. Obviously, it's always funny, like, that so many people, I don't know, so many people run this line of, like, they run the line of, like, anti-Semitism on most circumstances, like when you're talking about Israel's actions and whatever. And it's like, it's always the most vocal opponents of the apartheid state are often Jews. They're anti-Zionist Jews who maintain the radical emancipatory history of a Jewish people who have always been at the forefront of social justice universally, globally. So it's always like they are directly at the forefront of criticizing Israel's actions. That double down is not censored. I know. I'm gonna show it without trying to censor some of these parts. So here is David Hurst of editor-in-chief of Middle East Eye, independent news site. Ex-IDF agents form Break the Silence, good group. Yeah. So former IDF veterans are some of the biggest critics of the occupation as well, as a consequence of their own fucking actions. They participated in the immorality firsthand. They are also big critics as well. Breaking the Silence directly is a anti-occupation IDF veteran formed anti-occupation group. Like, I am fully in support of people like that. I know everybody goes, oh, baby killer, or whatever the fuck people want to say, but I think that's incredibly unproductive and incredibly unhelpful. You're literally fucking shooing away people who are aligned with you, people who are doing something incredibly brave, people who have engaged in an act of self-reflection that many have not. Many never will. So it's really stupid to do that. So yeah. Is Double Down News a good source? Yeah, Double Down News is great. Navarre is great. They're British outlets. They're British leftists. They're great. I keep forgetting to run the top of the hour ad break, which I'm going to do now, by the way. And then we'll move on. We'll watch the Double Down News, Israel, the Myth of Self-Defense, and then we'll get into a tactic that the American military and the Israeli military utilizes, and then there's a lot to cover. Here's the 3-minute ad break now. I keep forgetting to run it. I said I was going to, and I keep forgetting to run it.
If anyone is guilty for the bloodshed that's going on, it is the international community, particularly Britain. The international community has given the greenest of green lights to the Israeli army to do what it wants. And that means the freedom to commit war crimes. You'll see Western values as they actually operate, raining down bombs on completely innocent Gazan civilians. Whether they're supporters of Hamas, Fatah, whether they're civilians, they're going to die and are dying in their thousands. Where are Western values there? If there's blood on anyone's hands, it's on those who say
Israel has a right to defend itself.
Israel has the perfect right to defend itself.
Israel has a right to defend itself.
Israel does have that right to defend herself.
Israel has an absolute right to defend itself.
Israel has a right to self-defense.
This is not the whole story. It's not the defense of Israel. It is the expansion of Israel, and it is the creation of an apartheid regime even more severe than the one that happened in South Africa. Israel says it's fighting an existential war, and it has compared what Hamas did to...
Is identity politic the reason why the conflict cannot be solved? Yeah, Chatter. Chatter, let me explain something to you. We don't give a fuck about identity politics in this community. Obviously, like, we care about social justice for all people, but that does not mean that there is some sort of like identity shield that you can apply in this circumstance. Ultimately, the conflict in and of itself is entirely and utterly removed from the wokeness paradigm. That is just simply a distraction. Okay, it's a land grab. That's it. This is why I try to always explain to people, like, whenever people go, well, what about the religious justifications? This is a religious conflict. It's like, no, dog. Religion is just a tool in that circumstance. Okay. Religion is a galvanizing factor, a tool that Hamas will also apply as well, to utilize to make sure that they have a base of support early on. And it's one factor out of many. Obviously, there are significantly more important factors in why Palestinian people get pushed and become more radicalized and find themselves on the side of Hamas as their only fucking mechanism of pushback, violent retaliation. But beyond that, like, religion is simply just a tool in this circumstance. It's a way to justify. It is a way to justify land grabs on the Israeli side And that's it. All right, let's continue.
To a Holocaust. Half my family died in the Holocaust. There's no comparison. From a Palestinian perspective, you have to realize that Israel was the lords, the masters of the land. They controlled all your movements. They controlled how much you ate. They controlled who you married. It's the one that decides when to attack. This is a country used to total control over 1/2 of the population, and it lost that control. And it lost that control wildly. I'm appalled by some of the things that happened. Desperation turned into savagery, and I will use that word about what happened at Kfar Aza, or the music festival that took place, where unarmed...
He's fucking right. 100%. This is, he's right. It was savagery. That's why I think, like, whenever people go, well, there was, like, police in the crowd, and that's why they were shooting at the crowd. It's like, no, dog, you don't have to fucking do that. You don't have to say that. Like, it's not. And I think a lot of people don't fully grasp, like, how we got here. Okay? A lot of people don't grasp how we got here. And then, and if you don't understand, like, the rise to power, and how carefully, deliberately, this was, how carefully and deliberately the Israeli government that holds every fucking ounce of power in that area, okay, how they pushed people more and more into the hands of radical fundamentalists, okay? You cannot comprehend it. You will not be able to understand it. But none of us can also comprehend what it's like to be born into a fucking open-air prison that is getting bombed all the time. This is not a justification for the barbarity, okay? Just like the other side is not ever justified, in my opinion, because what Israel is doing is barbarity. It's ruthless slaughter. It's ethnic cleansing, even though it's done systematically. Okay? An explanation in this moment is not a justification, but I think it is apt to say it is a violent retaliation. A violent retaliation that those who were directly in the crosshairs of, that survived, have more moral clarity on than fucking people that are 10,000 miles away demanding blood. Okay? 30 more thousand until we get to 600K. All right, let's continue.
Armed festival goers were shot like ducks. These scenes are unknown to the current generation of Israelis, and the shock this has produced, the sudden loss of confidence in its star performer, which is its army and its intelligence services, cannot be underestimated. That shock has now turned to anger. That anger has now turned to an unholy desire to kill Gazans.
I think now it's the time that we need to erase Gaza.
We gotta wipe them off the fucking map.
Americans, by the way, remember, like, motherfuckers are Americans, okay? Remember that. I mean, are there people in Israel that are saying the same thing? Of course. But, remember how callous Americans can be, okay? Did Israel use queer people who turned them into inside agents to send the Gaza back? I saw tweets claiming Israel used those who seek shelter. Yes. It's one arm of many different cruel and unusual ways in which Israel surveils the fucking entire strip.
I'm talking about every fucking platinum like a parking lot.
Kill all Palestinians, all of them.
There's a Kfar Aza happening every night in Gaza. Women and children buried under rubble. There is absolutely apocalyptic scenes going on there. The Israeli Air Force deliberately targeting blocks, individual families, and wiping them out with precision weapons. And this is happening now to one family after another.
This image, I want to show you this one image, because this is the kid. This is what I saw. There's not too much blood on there, but I want you to see this. There is a reason. Look, I don't show the Palestinian deaths and I don't show the Israeli deaths because, well, one, it's a terms of service violation, and two, they're horrifying. Okay, they're horrifying. I think that it's really like Ben Shapiro specifically will start off and show every single type of coverage he does. He immediately will show one part of it. But the thing I want to show you is this: this child was hit with white phosphorus, which burned his skin, as far as I understand it. That's what people on the ground were saying. And that video is gruesome because he is trying to console his father in that moment, saying, "Don't be sad, Dad. Don't be sad. It's going to be all right." Okay? Like, that's a child. That's barbarity. That is barbarity. That is, it's disgusting. It's completely disgusting. There is no morality there, okay? Anyway, let's continue.
After another. I don't think Israel, and in particular the Israeli army, can give people lectures on brutality, particularly directed at children. It happens all the time in the so-called stable peace. There were 34 children killed so far this year by soldiers in the West Bank. So
yeah, 34 children were killed in the fucking West Bank, okay? 34 children were killed. Oh, thank you for showing me all the TOS parts, chatter. 34 children were killed in the West Bank, not in Gaza, in the West Bank, on their land, right? On the land where Israel is supposed to show the Palestinians and the rest of the world that they are collaborating and they're coexisting. So remember that. It's important to remember. It's important to consider.
There's butchery and there's barbarity on both sides. The problem is what's taking place in Gaza, which is truly apocalyptic, is done on an...
Here, I'll show you some of these moments as well. This is what, I mean, in the entirety is reduced to rubble.
Industrial scale. And by the time this comes out, the death toll will mount and mount. Yoav Gallant, the Israeli defense minister, the man who said that Palestinians are human animals, said Israeli forces will not be held accountable for anything they do. So all the past rules have been torn up, and Israel is...
And it's not like the past rules were kind anyway. It was always unkind.
It's going for the maximum number of Gazan casualties. And that's what the international community is allowing Israel to do. They have given Netanyahu the green light and an unlimited time to mount a ground invasion of Gaza. Gazans have tried to break out of their open-air prison before. It happened on the day in which Donald Trump's son-in-law was signing the ceremony that transferred the official American embassy to Jerusalem.
Before people say, why didn't they try, like, this, so much of defense, so much of the defense of Israel and Israeli actions rely on not knowing. Rely on not knowing the truth. It basically only exists due to the collaborative effort of Western media not showing you the truth. That's why so many people, when they do see the truth for the first time ever, go, oh my God, that's gruesome. Why would that happen? If you ask the question, why won't Gazans peacefully protest against Israel, okay? I think a lot of people who are familiar with the matter get very passionate and get very angry and say, fuck you, you fucking piece of shit. How do you fucking peacefully protest against an apartheid state, you fucking asshole, or whatever. But remember, if you are going to be an advocate for Palestinians in the Western world, okay, you have to always factor in how little those people know, how little they've heard of the Palestinian side. Obviously, there are still Islamophobic sentiments that play a really powerful role here in their indifference, okay? But remember, there are plenty of people who have never even seen this carnage. Ethan is a great example of this, okay? Ethan lived in Israel. Ethan is empathetic to Palestinians, okay? He's empathetic to the Palestinian plight. He had no fucking idea about the great, the march to return He did not know. He did not know what happened in 2018, where every Friday, thousands of Palestinian women, children, men, don't say okay? They walked to the border wall and got shot by IDF snipers. They simply did not know. So if you don't even know that part of the puzzle, okay, because you've never heard it, okay? You've never heard that part of the puzzle. Yeah, you are going to develop a perspective that is completely devoid of the reality on the ground. So remember, stop yelling at people and saying they're evil if they are empathetic and willing to hear it out. Okay? And 2018 is only one part of it. 2018 is only one part of this, okay?
Jerusalem on that very, very day, you had Palestinians.
Wait, hold on. I think there's going to be blood here.
Palestinians, unarmed, who were gunned down, demonstrating right next to the fence. They didn't break out of the fence. They were simply being shot at, rather like ducks, with the most sophisticated weapons. When that demonstration happened,
press, journalists, children, nurses. There was a very famous case, okay? There was a very famous case of a Palestinian medic, a nurse, who was sniped. And not only was she murdered, okay? Not only was she murdered, the Israeli state had the audacity to claim that by cutting her fucking message, by clip chimping her, they had the audacity to claim that she was saying she's a human shield for Hamas. She was clearly marked as a medic. Okay? Yeah. Here, this is the story. This is the story. Palestinians in Gaza tried the non-violent route even after decades of being killed and occupied. They organized the Great March to Return, peacefully went to the fence with the plea, let us go. What was the Israeli response? To shoot and kill 20-year-old nurse Ruzan. Now, they didn't just kill her. They didn't just shoot and kill her. She was clearly marked as a medic. The Israeli army edited a video of the Palestinian medic, its troops shot dead, to misleadingly show she was a human shield for Hamas. The edited clip, condemned by Palestinians and rights activists as an attempt to justify the 21-year-old Razan al-Najjar's death. They shot and killed her, then lied about it. And not only that, but also simultaneously in the media, they said these are telegenically dead children that Hamas is forcing at gunpoint to go to the Israeli Israeli border, as though there is nothing that the IDF could do about it. They have to fucking snipe them. Yeah. They fucking clipped what her words were out of context. The report concluded that the commission found reasonable grounds to believe that the Israeli snipers intentionally shot health workers despite seeing that they were clearly marked as such. Yeah. They shot and killed Ruzan, then lied about it, just as they shot and killed many others like Abu Turaye, an amputee. What threat do nurses and people in wheelchairs peacefully asking to end the genocidal Gaza blockade pose? They are Palestinian. That's it. Yeah. See? A shocking and wanton act. Israel accused over death of wheelchair user. For the Israeli government, this is simply an afterthought. They only look at this and say, well, you're making us look bad by forcing us to kill you. Okay? Western liberals always demand Palestinians to protest their occupation and slaughter peacefully and nonviolently, so they did. They've been doing it for decades. What was the outcome? Being murdered, as the New York Times and BBC write passive voice headlines exonerating their killers. 60 killed, 1,700 hospitalized, the worst one-day total in Gaza since the 2014 war. The toll elicited responses of defiance from some Israelis, rationalizations and others. Dozens of Palestinians have died in protest as the U.S. prepares to open its Jerusalem embassy. The liberal Western media and political class only claims to care about nonviolence for those oppressed and occupied by their own regimes and its proxies like Israel, When their own interests are at stake, they immediately start demanding HIMARS and F-16s. Here's a 20-year-old Palestinian nurse murdered by the Israeli fascist regime, who then killed her a second time by doctoring a video to justify her murder, something even the New York Times said was a step too far and debunked. They murdered her, and then they clip-chimped her to fucking act like what she was saying was that she is a human shield for Hamas, when she said she will be a shield for those who are being shot there, and she will put her body in the line of fire to defend those who are wounded in this peaceful protest. How fucking disgusting and gross. There is nothing that you can ever compare. She said, I'm here on the front lines as a human shield to protect the wounded. And then they cut it to say, I am a human shield. There is a reason why Palestinians are not killed, they die. There's a reason why Israelis are killed, but Palestinians are always just, they die. How does that happen? Do they die on their own? Are they just dying for no reason? Who's killing them? Israel is killing them. That's who. And that's only one aspect of the Western media's complicity in the ongoing apartheid regime and the war crimes.
Thousands learned a lesson that the next breakout that they do would have to be armed.
Hamas is ISIS.
Hamas is very, very different from ISIS, and actually the two were at war with each other, in which...
Yeah, by the way, this is actually also very important as well. I'm gonna get into a couple different things on this matter as well.
There were quite a few dead bodies. There's no analytical comparison between Hamas and ISIS, and the main difference between them is that although the Hamas is an Islamist organization, an offshoot of the Muslim Brotherhood, Hamas is a resistance group dedicated to ending the occupation. And this still is a dispute and a conflict over land and not religion. Having said that, Hamas called its attack on southern Israel.
Hania outlines the context and objectives of Hamas operation, the Al-Aqsa flood. This is important to understand as well.
The Al-Aqsa flood for a reason. Al-Aqsa is being invaded and attacked all the time. Al-Aqsa
there wasn't actually any.
Isn't just their third holiest site.
Here, you can see this here. This is not TOS.
Al-Aqsa is being invaded and attacked all the time. Al-Aqsa isn't just their third holiest site for Islam. It's also a national symbol for Palestine. This sacred turf is actually being taken away piecemeal. And again, the West is letting them do this. This was the reason for Hamas saying enough is enough. But there were lots of other reasons as well. If you can imagine it, 16 years in an open-air prison with the electricity controlled or rationed, food rationed.
That isn't Al-Aqsa, that's the Dome of the Rock. Okay. Thank you for the distinction. Yeah, you're right. The Dome of the Rock is uncontested, famously.
60% unemployment, settler attacks on Palestinian villages protected by the army, which Israelis themselves describe as pogroms. A total impossibility of a political solution or even a national unity government, and that suited Israel absolutely fine. When they were demonstrating about democracy in Israel,
this part is really important
no
as well.
one was talking about the obvious elephant in the room, which was an apartheid regime for half of the population, the Palestinian population. Neither left nor right were bothered about it. And that too is an ingredient into what actually happened here, because the message that was being given by Israel to the Palestinians is, you don't matter. We can do it without you. We can control you. And we've forgotten about the Palestinian state. No one is interested in it. Just days before this attack happened was the imminence of a normalization deal.
Like, the arrogance of the Israeli state in its refusal to even think that Palestinians have any kind of retaliatory effort, and that they'll just like sit back and be ethnically cleansed in this apartheid state day in, day out, as they secure contracts and move towards a peace negotiation without factoring in the Palestinian population that is 4 million, 2 million in Gaza and 2 million at least in the West Bank, is unimaginable to me. That is so fucking insane. It's so insane. It is just simply to tell the Palestinians, you need to sit back and you need to take it. There is nothing you can do. There is nothing you can do about it. You will just sit there and you'll take it. We will take your homes. We will kill you. We will arm the settlers on stolen land to come and harass you. We will use the IDF to clear this space. We will make living room for ourselves, for our people. Okay?
Between Saudi Arabia and Israel. And Netanyahu got up in the United Nations General Assembly waving a map that eradicated Palestine completely and saying,
we'll build a new corridor of peace and prosperity that
this is like a couple days before the Al-Aqsa flood operation.
Connects Asia through the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Israel to Europe. This is an extraordinary change, a monumental change.
Reversing the logic of the last possibility of an agreement on a two-state solution, which is in 2002, which was called the Arab Peace Initiative. You've got Israel that's turning the screw all the time and encroaching. There are now 700,000 settlers. It's impossible to put a Palestinian state, and everyone knows it. But
yeah, this is why I am not a two-stater, and I was wrong early on to be a two-stater because I was oblivious to the realities. You cannot have a two-state solution with 700,000 illegal settlers occupying the West Bank. You cannot do that because then you're not willing to treat Palestinians with humanity and dignity. You are just using the two-state to maintain an apartheid state. It has to be a secular, solitary, singular state where Palestinians, Muslims, Christians, Jews have equal rights. You have to give reparations and a right to return to the Palestinians. And that is not my fucking perspective on the matter. That is literally international law. That is what the UN wanted. That is what the UN originally wanted in 1948 in the immediate aftermath of the Nakba, even though they were technically saying that there should be two separate states. That is what they said, that Palestinians that were forcibly expelled in the Nakba should have a right to return and should get reparations if they do not return from the Israeli state. For those of you who say, didn't Palestinians deny the two-state solution? Once again, my friend, I am going to be very charitable to you, and I'm going to assume that you are unfamiliar. Okay? It depends on what time you are asking this question. If you ask now, Israelis and Palestinians both, of course, understandably think a two-state solution is bad, just like I do, because either you forcibly expel every single settler from the West Bank and then participate in a two-state solution, or you have a singular state at this moment. Because of Israel's actions in the West Bank and its endless colonial expansion and occupation, you cannot have a two-state solution. This is precisely the reason why both Israelis and Palestinians no longer believe a two-state solution is viable. But there was a point in time when, yes, Palestinians wanted a two-state solution. Abso-fucking-lutely. There was a point in time where those who were working to facilitate a two-state solution, led by Yasser Arafat, were incredibly popular, unimaginably popular, the Palestinians were united. And what happened? Israel treated the Palestinian Authority, Israel treated the Palestinian leadership that always, time and time again, wanted to collaborate with Israel and hope that Israel will treat those Palestinians with dignity and humanity. They were cast aside. They were played a fool. They were treated like fucking shit. Over and over again. You think people are blind to that reality? Of course not. And that was by design. That was by design. That's the other part. This was always and forever the goal of the Israeli state, to prop up a fundamentalist Islamist group like Hamas, which they did deliberately, and have that group facilitate violence every single time there was a peaceful deal that could have happened, every single time there was a peaceful deal that they would also renege on those conditions on, time and time again, and lie and say, oh, they never wanted it, when all accounts point to that being a fucking lie, okay? Palestinians were forced to compromise over and over and over and over again, and slowly but surely, deliberately pushed into the hands of more reactionary, emancipatory movements like Hamas. Okay? And Hamas's current charter, the 2017 charter, is infinitely more moderate than the original 1988 charter, which everyone always uses, but it doesn't really matter. They are still obviously Islamist fundamentalists with more moderate components in it now. It's more diverse than you think it is, but of course, that's it ultimately doesn't matter. It ultimately does not matter because they were propped up and put into that position specifically so they would be the violent ones, so that Israel could show all Palestinians are Hamas. They are with Hamas. And when you humiliate Palestinians that are trying to coexist, when you keep hurting them, when you keep killing them, when you keep taking their fucking land, as Israel has done in the West Bank, of course, after a certain point, Palestinians will be like, okay, well, the fuck are we supposed to do?
A two-state solution is cynically the policy of all European governments and America. It's a policy that can't now possibly exist. And that is the situation that the Palestinians are facing. Now, what the Hamas attack has done is to say, I'm sorry, we're here. You cannot ignore us. Now, they've done it in a brutal way. They have definitely committed crimes against humanity. But the Palestinians, who would not necessarily support Hamas at all, would say, what the hell else do we do? And that's what's happening all over the place to a new generation of Palestinians. And this is the fundamental problem of Israel thinking that it can wipe Gaza out. It can wipe Gaza out. It can kill 10,000 people, 20,000 people.
Which it has.
It cannot kill the Palestinian cause.
You will always and forever be, one, haunted by your crimes, and two, endlessly fought back against. That is not a threat, okay? That is a 100% likelihood. You have to understand. You cannot do this to people and have them forget that you did this to them, okay? That's why I always say there's only two ways out of a conflict. Either you engage and facilitate in permanent genocide, okay? And even then, that is a self-defeating fascist ideology that will inevitably cripple your nation state as well. It might take 100 years. It might take 50 years, but it will happen. It might take 250 years, like some countries that are now coming to the closing point of their empire. But people will always remember. They will always fight back. That's why so many people in Israel who were victims of the Palestinian militant reaction and action on October 7th themselves have recognized why this happened, because they are the ones who are most interested in stopping it, ensuring that it does not continue.
Hamas is a complicated organization to describe. It has various wings. There is a faction of Hamas that controls Gaza, and there is Mohammed al-Dif, the head of the Qassam Brigade, named after a Syrian preacher who turned to resistance under the British mandate. He was killed by the British in a forest outside Jenin. What the West and Israel permanently misunderstands about the nature of Palestinian resistance was that his name and example lived on. If Israel now succeeds in eradicating the military leadership, the Qassam brigades of Gaza, and kills them all, what do you think is going to happen to the memory that they leave behind? Yes, they can level Gaza. They can reduce the whole thing to a pile of rubble. They can kill 100,000 people, and they can say,
and they have
done. And they can even defeat Hezbollah. But what do you think is going to happen to...
Which, I mean, I don't even think they can do that second part, or they haven't been able to in the past, so...
the memory of all those dead in a new generation that will break out with even stronger force in 20 or 30 years' time. That's history. That's what's happened before. Resistance, armed resistance, has been crushed many times. It was crushed in 1948. It was crushed in 1969. It was crushed in 1973.
It is looking at the situation in Israel and thinking that more violent means is going to somehow solve this conflict is so utterly insane to me. Because for 75 years, you have done the same thing. You've bullied these people, you've humiliated these people, you've taken their lands, you've killed them, you've expelled them, you've subjugated them, you have chained them, you've refused to give them the dignity and the humanity when time and time again, parts resisted violently, okay? But there was an overwhelming consensus that and a recognition that they wanted to survive. And you never showed them an ounce of fucking dignity. You never treated them as peers. You never treated them as equals. You constantly fucking kept doubling down on your violence. And that's precisely how this situation went from throwing fucking rocks in the first Intifada and engaging in strikes to explosives in the second one. And suicide bombs, which only accelerated with America's war on terror as well. It's ridiculous. How can you think that you can try the same thing over and over again? Try the same thing over and over again and expect a different result when the situation has only gotten more fucking violent. The problem is, what will other countries do? The West already made their statement, and I doubt that Iran or Hezbollah will help, because if Israel closes the cease of existence, they will use nukes, but before this, USA will help. No, I think that Hezbollah, I suspect that Hamas assumed that Hezbollah would open a two-front war, okay, and that Iran would potentially come to help as well. This did not happen. And now I think that Seymour Hersh is. I agree with the Hershman's analysis on the matter, or at least I agree with whoever he's getting sources from, that they are just going to wipe out as many buildings as possible and start dropping JDAMs and bunker busters to try to destroy the complex tunnel network that is underneath Gaza. And then go in afterwards, including the Bob Menendez part, which is pretty funny. Israeli police officer threatens reporter live on air. Yeah, we're going to cover that in a second.
It's been crushed regularly. And what has happened? Hamas is now much, much stronger than previous iterations of it. So there's always...
Yeah, that's the other part of it. Like, this is it. This is the question. Like, what do you think? I mean, how can you not see it? How can you not see that this is a deliberate Netanyahu policy as well? And it's not like he hides it. He says it. He says that this is what he wants to do. He has said that this is what his goal is to prop up Hamas, make Hamas the force to reckon with, that to make it seem as though Hamas is like the only fucking force to negotiate with in any means, to take seriously. And that's a two-pronged approach. You take the Palestinian Authority, a secular institution that has tried to collaborate with Israel time and time again, and you fucking use them as a part of your security apparatus You turn them into dogs, collaborative dogs in the eyes of the Palestinians. You don't offer any fucking meaningful concessions or an opportunity for people to fucking breathe for a singular moment in the West Bank. And then you literally even make sure that aid goes through Hamas as well, personally and deliberately. Netanyahu has openly stated that this is his goal. The most successful way to thwart an effort of Palestinian state building is by propping up Hamas as the singular force for Palestinians. Have you seen Ben Shapiro's new video, You're Being Lied to About Israel and Palestine? I have not, but we'll watch it. It's so fucking sad.
It's going to be, whoever you call them, a very strong element of Palestinians who say the only way of changing the situation is by armed resistance, until they are involved in proper negotiations and a peace deal and a calm and an exchange of prisoners. But if Israel thinks that they can wipe out Hamas and wipe out the Palestinian resistance, history tells us they are completely wrong. And all we are doing now is setting the seeds for an even more powerful round of resistance in 1 or 2 decades to come. How do we stop the violence? We stop the violence by reversing course, by realizing that the Palestinians are people, that there's always going to be resistance.
Genuinely, does Hamas, they know they're being used like this by Bibi and Israel? No, they don't. I don't think that they're being used per se. Why the fuck would they give a shit? Like, Netanyahu doesn't just prop up Hamas. Netanyahu also gives justification to Hamas's existence. This is something that people don't understand. Okay? They're desperate. People are desperate. They just want to be fucking free. They want to live. They want to live. They want to work. They want everything that you want. These are just human beings. Anyone that muddies the water and says, oh, it's because they're like Islamist fundamentalists across the board, all Palestinians are, is a fucking horrifying monster and is basically just simply running along with the narrative that all Palestinians are just like Arab, Muslim, scary. That's it. But it's because most people don't know what it's like. Even now, most people don't know what it's like in the West Bank. Since the Israeli retaliation started in the West Bank, 51 people have died. They've been killed by Western settlers that have been armed by the motherfucking government. How is that allowed? How is that acceptable? Donation match in progress. All donations triple. 3x by Davlat Uralov. Anonymous donation matching up to 10K. Oh, yeah, I saw this. In Turkish Foreign Affairs, when Mesut Yilmaz was the prime minister, he went to meet with Netanyahu and Arafat and said, we want to build the infrastructure of Gaza Strip. He takes Arafat as his interlocutor. Netanyahu says, why don't you help Hamas? Support Hamas, not Arafat. Mesut Yilmaz will also meet with the official administrators. All interview records are available in Foreign Affairs. I saw this as well. Let me see if I can find it. King of the Disco, can you send this to me? Yeah. I mean, that's like, but that's not really shocking either, for the record. That's just one element of it. It's like, I don't think you need more proof that Netanyahu specifically and deliberately wanted to prop up Hamas as a counterweight to Arafat and to any kind of secular Palestinian movement that was genuinely willing and able to talk to the Israeli government to negotiate a way out of this. Let's finish this video and then I'll move
whether
on.
it's Hamas, whether it's anyone else, whatever they call themselves, they are not going to be chucked off their land. There is not going to be another Nakba. They're going to stay there, whatever, and they're going to die on that land. The only way out of this incredible cul-de-sac that we've got ourselves into is to stop giving Israel the green light, is to enforce negotiations with a broadly representative Palestinian national unity government that allows Palestinians to elect their own leaders, that lifts the siege on Gaza and lifts the siege on all the other Palestinian enclaves in the West Bank, and that you start a process of sharing the land from the river to the sea between the two peoples. And this has got to be done with a realization in Israel that there is no end to this until They fundamentally reverse course. The alternative media.
Anyway, Double Down News is a great resource. Obviously, Middle East Eye is great as well. And so is David Hurst. It's such an interesting state of affairs because every single historian that looks at the situation has the diametrical opposite view on the matter that is presented in mainstream media as fact. It blows my fucking mind. Like, and this is not just like, this isn't like Muslim historians or anything like that. This isn't like anyone. This is a incredibly diverse group of individuals from all walks of life, from all different ethnic backgrounds, including Israeli historians. That is the craziest part about it, is that people that study the matter, no matter what their perspective is, including Zionists themselves, okay, including liberal Zionists themselves, recognize that it is unsustainable to continue the maintenance of an apartheid state because it necessitates so much violence, and that violence will inevitably cause a violent reaction. It's impossible. It's so crazy to me that regardless of the thousands of hours of historical analysis on the matter, thousands of hours, and these are not like woke people across the board, okay? Oh, thank you for sending me this. Zachary Foster is a historian of Palestine at Princeton. Noah Colwin sent me this thread earlier today. I wanted to read it out to you, okay? Like, it's so crazy to me because it's like, read a book, like any book, okay? And you will see the truth. It's that simple. And yet people are so blinded to it. Blinded because, one, they're just ignorant and haven't figured it out. Blinded because they've been lied to. And blinded because, you know, it's much easier to just maintain in the comfort bubble of Islamophobic white supremacy. Why are you surprised extremist right-wing fascist propaganda is effective? I don't get it. I don't know. I guess most people use historic analysis retroactively to justify their takes rather than use it to form their opinions. But you can't. The thing is, you can't really look to the history of the Israeli state's development and not recognize who is in the wrong here. You know what I mean? Like, no historian that is honest, okay, and like there is an overwhelming consensus here, okay, is going to fucking tell you like, no, it's actually super pog that Israel has been engaging in the longest running ethnic cleansing campaign and ethnic displacement campaign as it like maintains an apartheid state. Like, it's insane. Ben Shapiro is not a historian. He's a fucking charlatan and a hack. So, no, I don't care about what Ben Shapiro has to say. It's like, yeah, okay, I don't care what the IDF has to say about their justifications for it either. I don't care what Netanyahu has to say about why the situation is the way it is. I care about, like, actual history. I care about what people have written about this. I care about the genuine facts of the matter. Not charlatans who are responsible for the atrocities, specifically Benjamin Netanyahu in this circumstance. Or those who have championed that bloodshed time and time again. How many fucking articles has Ben Shapiro written about literally demanding a final solution for Palestinians, okay? Even back in like 2013, he was writing articles about how he wanted a final solution. Transfer is not a dirty word, he said, okay? Here it is. Benjamin Shapiro wrote this in 2003. His opinion has not shifted on the matter, by the way, before you say, oh my God, are we canceling him for 2003 takes? His opinion has never changed on the matter. Here, it's not, that's not the only one. Ben Shapiro's old support for civilian deaths in the Middle East resurfaces after dissing call for truce in Israel-Palestine war. Here. In a 2002 article, Shapiro wrote, I'm getting really sick of people who whine about civilian casualties when I see in the newspapers that civilians in Afghanistan or the West Bank were killed by American or Israeli troops. I don't really care, Shapiro declared, that one American soldier is worth far more than an Afghan civilian, accusing Afghan civilians of being fundamentalist Muslims who provide cover for terrorists or give them money. He has never stopped. He's never stopped baying for blood. In a 2018 column for the Daily Wire, Shapiro accounted for the article by calling it a bad piece, plain and simple, and something I wish I'd never written, except he's saying the same things. When you talked about the March of Return, yes, 60 people died. No, 60 people didn't die, young biscuit. They were assassinated by Israeli snipers, and the IDF openly claimed that they accounted for every single bullet. The IDF snipers at the time said they would take 42 knees a day. 42 kneecaps a day. They would shoot at 42 kneecaps a day. They were assassinated by the IDF snipers. Hamas claimed 50 of those as being a part of their organization, and Islamic Jihad claimed others. Yes, shooting in the crowds that cannot distinguish between civilians is wrong, but leaving out the nuance just does a disservice to your point. No, you're a cowardly piece of shit who is trying so desperately to fucking claim that these peaceful people that were fucking walking towards a goddamn border to peacefully protest against a violent occupying apartheid state would actually be more humane. How sad for you to try and run defense for that. Here it is. Yesterday, we saw 30,000 people. We arrived prepared with precise reinforcements. Nothing was carried out uncontrolled, and everything was accurate and measured, and we know where every bullet landed. That's how they bragged about shooting 773 Palestinians with live fire. 773 Palestinians. None of them were armed. Does this change your perspective, or are you in here simply to try to combat the accurate assessment and the real truth of what happened on the ground? There were kids. They shot kids. They shot people in fucking wheelchairs. They shot a pregnant woman. They shot medics. They shot press. Do you do this specifically because you've been misinformed? Or do you do this because you are informed and you don't want to live with that morality? You don't want to carry that weight, so you lie to yourself and maybe you lie to others. Is that what it is? You can't hand wave away the reality. You can't do that. Not only did they shoot the pregnant woman, they made t-shirts about it. They made a fucking t-shirt. 2 birds, 1 stone. They shot children and made a t-shirt about how it's a harder target to hit. Didn't the West agree to protect Ukraine like way back in the 90s for giving up their nuclear weapons, similar with England and the promise to Hong Kong for a peaceful transition under China? Yeah, he only comes in here for to take whatever position I have or whatever position he thinks I have and assume the opposite, I suspect. All right, well, he's gone now. He made his voice be heard. He got shit on. He got dookied on. And now he's gone. Yeah, here are the shirts. 1 shot, 2 kills. The kid one. Top left shirt, Sniper Division, 1 shot, 2 kills. Top right shirt, Only God Forgives. Bottom left shirt, the smaller, the harder. The smaller the target, the harder the kill. Bottom right shirt text, each Arab mother should know that the fate of her son is dependent upon my hands. Just normal stuff, bro. Most moral army shit. You know what I'm saying? That's the craziest part about it. We're going to watch the GDF video in a second. He's completely wrong. 223, not 60 Palestinians died. Yeah. Wait, no, you're, this is Protective Edge. And, oh, here, the military is still investigating the March and Return protests to date. One soldier has been convicted of abuse of authority in a manner that endangers human life for shooting and killing a 14-year-old Palestinian and sentenced to 1-month community service. What a joke. He shot and killed a 14-year-old, the only person that they actually investigated, which, by the way, generals at the time literally said, we give authorization for every single sniper kill. So, of course, they knew that they were killing fucking children, and they didn't give a shit. Love that one guy didn't get the prior confirmation, shot him, and only got 1-month community service for killing a 14-year-old. Shut the fuck up. There is no defense of this. You cannot defend this. It is indefensible unless you are a monster. Yeah. Per Amnesty, by the end of 2019, the Israeli forces had killed 214 civilians, including 46 children, injured more than 8,000 others with live ammunition. A total of 156 of those injured had to have limbs amputated. Come on, guys. It's fucking ridiculous, okay? It's so ridiculous, especially when you have people openly stating what their desires are here. I mean, it's not like those in charge are hiding it. They're telling you exactly what they mean. Here, let's talk about Zachary Foster, a Palestinian historian now. Here's the history you already know. Hamas's 1988 charter calls for Israel's destruction. Hamas has committed dozens of terror attacks, killing many Israeli civilians, and Hamas murdered thousands innocent civilians in the past 8 days. Here's the history you don't know. In 1948, Ahmed Yassin, who founded Hamas, was uprooted and ethnically cleansed from his home at the age 12. In 1973, he founded an Islamic charity in Gaza focused on education, social services, preaching, youth sports, and cultural activities and social services for the poor and orphans. In the 1980s, Israel pursued a divide and rule policy. To weaken the PLO, it supported and funded the Islamic charity. Yitzhak Segev, an ex-military governor in Gaza, and Avner Cohen, an ex-religious affairs official, have admitted that Hamas was a creation of Israel. This is something that we covered a lot here. Blowback, how Israel went from helping create Hamas to bombing it. So remember that.
Damn, this guy's good.